Welcome to the Inside Integration Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined, as always, by my partner over there, Jayson.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're going to be getting into it a little bit about some industry news. We've got some more some more mergers and some surprising news, and just things coming together. Like seems like every day we're talking about somebody getting bigger or folding somebody else into them, and yeah, little bit of big news.
Yeah, the mergers and acquisitions monster never sleeps. He's always out there looking to consolidate and grow and put out a bigger footprint. Yeah, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, there's was an announcement, I think, on LinkedIn, maybe Friday or something like that of last week. So that would be October 17-ish
Mhm.
ish or something. Um, with our friends over at Phoenix Marketing moving to more of a national role or national rep force. And being that this is an industry that I've been in for 25 plus years, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that have been in the game a lot longer than I have. The fact that it's taken this long for somebody to get the stones together to try to figure out how to pull something like that off is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But honestly, you and I have talked in private about why isn't there like a national rep force, or why isn't there a national outfit that's moved into this corporation? And maybe Chris Gilray was like, ninja behind the blinds or something, but I doubt it because Chris is a pretty ambitious guy and certainly been in the game a while, well respected. But I mean, that's such a seismic shift to take and put your shingle out there at that level, and be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how it goes, and we have had that discussion about how come all of these rep firms are pretty well, in one area, and I guess with the exception, I mean, I remember being from the Northeast, we had a couple of different rep territories, all really within the same area, from like the Middle Atlantic and New York Metro and Pencil, like it was all a bunch of territories that kind of came together, and then coming out west, and you might have a territory that's the entire middle of the country, right? Right?
Right,
Like,
right. Well,
it's kind of interesting. But this is definitely seems very ambitious. It seems like a good enough idea. You park a rep in a territory, and again, we have no idea how this is all going to work out because it hasn't,
yeah,
you know,
it's pretty light on details. It's big on announcements, and we've heard some rumors that there's going to be some lines moving around, maybe going national, something like that. So I can't confirm or deny any of that stuff firsthand because I don't actually know. But it is exciting to think that, like, hey, like there is still some change. There is still some variance here. It feels like, like you're describing before, like the reps in the territories in the day, it kind of feels like the five families or something, not to make like another Godfather reference, but it's like they've taken this omerta and there's like this code of honor, like, okay, this is my territory, this is my
right,
turf.
right.
I'm going to sell the guys in this territory, I get paid for guys in this territory. And I mean, in reality, I'm sure there's legally binding contracts, but it's kind of a handshake, flim flam, shimmy dog ham,
I
situation.
mean,
And
30 days at a shot, right? It's hard.
ex-
It's hard to achieve object permanence in 30 days, but
yeah.
okay.
And I think that's something that a lot of integrators out there that don't really understand what the rep business is, or other people that don't understand what it is. It really is this continuing 30-day arrangement where, we sort of, every 30 days, we're going to, quote unquote, come back to the table and review your performance and make sure that you're living up to the standards. But, these rep firms that have had these lines for years and years and years and years, it's not because they're sitting on their laurels, or they're
Right.
just they were in line first. They're the ones that have been delivering. But yeah, this is again. I wonder how that whole model shifts as a result of this. I mean, is it kind of like when when corporate America showed up in Vegas and like ran the mob out of town, or
Well,
like what's that all about?
I was thinking it's more like it's a collection of like mom and pop stores, and then Amazon just builds a
Oh,
giga warehouse in the middle of your thing, and it's like, oh, all right,
man,
well,
you just ruined my whole gangster, my mafioso Black Hand
Well,
America
it's hey, the analogy
thread here.
works,
Thanks
right?
a
Like
lot.
you've got your five families, and then IKEA shows up in Bay Ridge, and now you're
Oh yeah,
how are we
there's
going to rob Lufthansa? It's not going
uh,
to work out, you know?
yeah, there aren't a lot of cigarette trucks to knock over anymore, I guess,
Right.
unfortunately. But
These damn
um,
Amazon trucks, they're all automated. There's nobody to
I know.
rob.
Well, I mean, what's in there anyway? I mean, it could be cat food, could be $1 million. You don't know. That's the mystery. It's like the potluck of highway robbery. You get the Amazon truck right after it's left the depot, and you see what's inside there.
It's like porch pirates. It's the same kind of idea, right? Like you see all these people on the ring cameras who are just grabbing, stuff off the porch. I mean, it could be hand towels or it could
Yeah.
be a PS5. You never know. It's the luck of
Enjoy
the
those
draw.
adult diapers, sir or ma'am. I'm not sure. Right.
Which is why I ship adult diapers to myself every month or so, just to,
Just
in
to leave them
case,
out on the porch.
yeah, when that one gets stolen, they'll never steal from me ever again because, from my order from, usedadultdiapers.com fulfilled by Amazon, that's where it is.
Man, that
This
was a wild tangent
this is a
from where we
moneymaker. I'm
started.
telling you, we're talking about rep firms getting bigger. I think there's a moneymaker there in just obscene packaging on a regular basis to your front door. And there's some marker on the box that nobody knows except for you. And it's just nice and attractive. Maybe it's like, maybe it's in like an Apple box or something. It's just, you know, dog crap.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
sure.
know.
I'm sure there's something with the Bill of Rights, or there's some lawyer out there that's listening to this right now, going, "You can't do this because." But
You're going to turn up in court with some defendant, as the
that's
defendant, with
right.
some plaintiff saying, yeah, he shipped dog crap to himself, and I opened the box because I stole
Right.
it off of his porch. Oh man, that would just be the trial of the century right there.
Welcome to America, ladies and gentlemen.
But so and way back to where we began here
Yeah.
with
Wow.
different territories and that kind of thing. I mean that is definitely something that we've we're kind of doing that with Oliver, right? We were really doing that when we were the entire West Coast broken up into three different
Sure.
territories, and then
Big powerhouse type
yeah,
of outfit with a lot of lines.
yeah, and then different things. But I would say that's probably the biggest and hardest thing to figure out for these guys is you've got established rep firms that are great in different territories and existing relationships. Well, how are you gonna justify being the Sony rep in one in one territory, and then in the boarding territory you're the Samsung rep, right? Like how do we figure this all out? How do you do speaker brand A and speaker brand B in your other territory? It's not it's going to be a really interesting thing to kind of see how it gets figured out. And
If, yeah,
man,
if they're successful, man, that's the thing, though, right? Like that's what I'm talking about. Really shifting the paradigm and shifting the model. If they're successful in establishing a national rep force for, say, a single brand or a couple of single brands, where that's really all they sell, that's what they focus on. Now, all of a sudden, they've created a lane where there is consolidation possible and unification possible, and talk about layers of efficiencies and driving costs down from the from the rep side of things, because you're not spreading your resources out. Or you can do force multiplier, say, hey, we've got a department that handles system design or product questions, and now you can sort of shift the load. And again, I think it's ambitious and it's brilliant, and I applaud Chris for giving it a go. I mean, I'm sure there's a few reps out there that probably pretty chagrined about losing a major line. Like, I don't think that's super cool. I mean, I don't think that would feel super cool, for excuse me for misspeaking there. I mean, that's not a great situation, but this is business. And by and large, if you're looking at making a bigger impact with less effort, here's how you do it, right?
yeah, and there's a lot to be said for efficiencies of scale, like you mentioned. We kind of do it here where our territories used to be three, now it's two. We share one healthcare administrator. We share just to
Sure.
kind of make things, it makes it less expensive to have, one marketing person that takes care of all this and more. Don't know who that is, but,
Poor sucker.
one sales engineer, you can have one lighting designer that services multiple territories. That's something that you can definitely offer. These are some plus items. These are definitely some things that make a lot of sense if you're, running multiple territories out of, underneath a single umbrella. And it's smart. Maybe you don't need six different rep firms representing you at HTSA or at Azione or wherever. Like here's the
Oh, yeah.
one Oliver marketing representative going to Lightapalooza, and they'll share with the team. Maybe that's a thing. Um,
As a former vendor, yeah, I know I get the tingles when I think about cost savings, right? So, that maximizing that ROI, like, oh, wait a second, I can have a cohesive team that we can manage basically directly that is all marching in lockstep together. There isn't any nuance because, well, there's existing relationships or what have you, right? Like, just there's a lot of there's a lot of upsides here and certainly some pitfalls to go with it. But I feel like
now it
if anybody can figure it out, Chris and the team at Phoenix could probably do a pretty good job at it. I'm excited to see where they take it.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see, and it really kind of follows the trend, right? We've got integrators who are banding together in, both in trade groups and in franchise models. Daisy being the probably
Yeah,
the biggest one
yeah,
right now.
that's a
Um,
huge one.
and it all speaks to standardization, right? If you can standardize things, if you can put processes in place that everybody knows what to do, no matter what territory they're located in a country, and it makes your team way more effective than everybody trying to figure it out, reinvent the wheel every single time. Not not to name any names, but that seems to be kind of the rep model at this point. But
Sure.
you know, this is a good thing, and this is something that, this lesson is good for integrators as well. Standardize. Like you found a great way to do it. Document that thing, standardize it, and get everybody on your team swimming in the same direction. That's where we roll.
Yeah, where it makes sense, and partnering up, I think where it makes sense. Competition is great and all, but I mean, the Dodge brothers used to own Ford Motor Company. Like there's a lot of history and stuff there that if you look back in hindsight, you go, wow, what would it have been if it had gone a different way? So, again, keeping your eyes and your mind open, just again, really exciting to think about. Um, how this is going to shift everything, and maybe for the better, maybe not, who knows, right? But that's all part of the game. But I think it adds like a legitimacy, to have a national footprint like that, to be a national sales organization. That's not something that a lot of other custom integrator based anything or related anything that I can think of anyways, short of a factory effort,
Sure.
matches that. So again, kudos to those guys.
And yeah, again, continuing trend. We saw this with, Custom Plus, Volume, all these local guys who, they all got absorbed into Snap, and then Snap became this big thing, and then Snap
Yeah,
came in, and now
yeah,
we've got
right.
ADI Snap Residio, right? And we're all
They were the 10,000 pound gorilla, and then like Godzilla showed up, right? Like I don't know how else to to draw a metaphor, an analogy for what that looks like. But I mean, think about the perception of Snap One within the custom install industry 2 years ago. What did it say, right? Or
sure.
even pre-COVID, monster, right? The biggest thing in the game, super mega bucks, all the dough in the world.
Yep.
Got Control 4, got all this stuff going, and then nobody could be bigger than that. Well, hold my
Right.
beer, right?
Right. Hold my beer. And then Residio
And
looking
then
and saying, okay, this is a monster. And then you've got this giant Amazon smile that's just lurking over the horizon, right? Like there's
it's
always a
all
bigger fish, baby.
for sure. So Honeywell's a rounding error um, to Amazon, and then they break Residio out, and they're a monster of unequal proportions relative to the industry or relative to Snap. So sure, why not acquire them? Why not consolidate? Why not bring the security and CCTV and control space together logically on paper? I think it all fits. I think there's a lot of shakeout still to happen and still going on relative to that. We're seeing some other distributors grow and expand as a result. We're seeing a shift in people. Our good friend Timo Hildebrandt made the announcement here today. So when this podcast goes live, it'll be a couple of days old. But moving over to the KOA and EDI family that with Wave and what Mark Fukuda is bringing out, like it's it's a new race to grow these things into different looking machines than they've been before.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that you bring up, and that change, right? Like this is somebody who, and again, I'm kind of coming into this blind because frankly, who cares?
Yeah, yeah.
From where I'm coming from, honestly, who gives a shit? But you've got a big player who was instrumental in those two behemoths coming together that
Right.
is now moving over
Well, well, that's
to
fair, right? For those people that don't know, Timo Hildebrandt was the senior director of all the local Snap branches. So he was the guy that was in there knocking on doors, making sure that the standards were same across the country, making sure that the managers and the branches were run at the standard that they expected. So again, without any hyperbole or with any introduction, like who does what does that mean? But when you got the guy that's actually basically making sure that all the branches are on standard for the entire country, switching to a different distributor outfit that's an up and coming one in Southern California with KOA and EDI, not ADI, EDI.
yeah.
It's just okay, more of the same change and evolution that we're talking about. So congratulations to the KOA family and congratulations to Timo for making a switch. Hopefully that it's the one that you want it to be, and you guys are evolving into the next thing that you're becoming. But I think that generally speaking, this signals an overall sea change in what the distributor model looks like, what those stores offer, um, what what family of businesses distribution is going to become. Do they become rep firm hybrid models with marketing and all that stuff under roof? Do we go back to the future? Like what does this really look like? Like it's crazy. So it's kind of fun to think about.
Well, yeah, fun is a good way to describe it.
Yeah,
But what do you think? Like, what's your? I mean, I can tell you as a as a former integrator. I mean, seeing all this consolidation up the chain kind of makes my neck hair stand up. And as an Italian, there's a lot of it, but it really, it makes me a little nervous, right? Like the diminishment of choice. I mean, and I'm fortunate enough to know, um, being down here in SoCal, I got to know the KOA guys pretty good, and they are just world class, excellent people.
sure.
They're fantastic. Their whole operation is great. The people are great. Dealers love them. Blah, blah 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 blah. But seeing these stars kind of align a little bit, right? And the first idea is like, okay, well, why are you aligning? And it's always to save costs. Always, right? Like that's
Yeah,
always,
increase profits.
yeah. I mean, everybody always combines, and what they say is it's to serve customers better, but what they mean is it's to increase our bottom line and make things more efficient by getting rid of where this overlap is. So, as a former custom integrator, not too far removed, it makes me a little bit nervous, right? Like here's your, I know, and again, integrators that I've talked to, they haven't really seen too many changes on the Snap side or on the value tone side. It hasn't really changed too much. It hasn't, other than like, the programs getting a lot more streamlined, which is definitely a benefit to integrators, right? Like the web interfaces and how to order and do all this stuff. That stuff is all improved. What hasn't changed, which is good, is that the guys behind the counter at your local value tone are still the guys behind the counter at your local value tone. They're still there. They're still ready to pull your orders. They're still there's still hot dogs rolling in the thing that you can grab on
Mm,
your way in and out the
nothing like a
door.
free hot dog.
Yeah,
That
and
don't even count.
right. better
You
than a
didn't
gas
pay
station
for
hot
it. It's
dog.
free. Yeah.
And it's absolutely, that stuff has not changed. But as an integrator, again, and somebody who worries a lot, when does that stuff change? When is it, when is your favorite guy who's behind the counter no longer there because he's been consolidated, or we've now, we have an ADI and a value tone that are very close to each other. you know,
Yeah,
when
it's
do
a
those
tricky.
smash together and say, hey, we don't need all this extra real estate, right? Like that's
Oh, this is just the start, my friend. Like that's the other thing, right? Like this isn't the end of the story.
no.
This is just the start of it. So the 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 change in personnel, the consolidation, the movement, like it's gonna be a running process. And I mean, I don't know what the timeline is for the ADI folks, or Residio folks to merge all that stuff with the Snap brands nationally, but it's an aggressive timeline for sure. And they want to, they want to get to that point where they're seeing that return on their investment. I don't think we've seen a reduction in the quality of the product. I think that, generally speaking, once they sort of weather the storm and sort of right themselves, and maybe that's our perception. Maybe they're swimming in cash so deep that they're like, what storm?
Right.
I don't know, but I think to your point, the from my perspective anyway, the consolidation I think is just a natural progression of all things, right? We're just
Sure.
seeing roll up into the bigger one. And, although it does maybe give me a little bit of agita to throw out the only Italian word that I can use effectively in a sentence. um, it makes my stomach hurt a little bit. The reality is that integrators are going to adjust based on what's happening. Whether it's a new supplier, whether it's a new brand,
Right.
whether it's a national rep firm, whatever that looks like. If
Sure.
that's the product that I want and it's available and my clients want it and I can provide it as a service and a solution and I can make money on it, doesn't matter where it's coming from. I think by and large, and you and myself both as former integrators go, loyalty and relationships are one thing, but
Right. Things got to
uh,
work at the end of the
I've
day.
got,
If
it's got to work. I've got mouths to feed. I got to keep Cody the Wonder Dog and snacks. I mean, there's like a lot of overhead over here. So whatever that means, if I have to do business maybe with people that I don't necessarily agree with, or it's just, hey, I don't necessarily like this decision that a vendor made, but I'm invested in their product, so if, like it or not, here I go.
right.
I think that's a reality.
Well, and there is certainly a lot of, and I mean, obviously we don't see it. We're obviously immune because we've just got the best brands and the best personnel on the whole planet. But
You're looking
there's
at two of them right now.
there is
It's fun.
certainly agreed. And you're handsome, but there's there's definitely a good bit of kind of grinning and bearing it in this marketplace, right? Like we've absolutely heard stories of, hey, that guy is a great rep. I would buy anything that guy is representing. And at the same time, you've got other other integrators who, I've built my business around this product, and you know what, I hate my rep, he sucks, but I'm going to deal with him as little as possible, and kind of keep on going. So yeah, again, integrators at the end of the day, if the thing works, if it's a good product, if you make a ton of money doing it and it's not too much of a lift to sell it or spec it, I think that's going to win out every single time.
Yeah, that's the perspective I try to maintain as a rep. I travel back in the Wayback Machine to 2011, the last time I drove in a van as an integrator, like pulling my tools out of the truck for the last day. And I remember thinking, like, I got to remember what this is like and just, keep that perspective for where we're going as we go forward. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's the reality of it at the end of the day. And the role of a rep is to kind of fill in that last mile for a manufacturer, right? Like we're the boots on the ground. We have localized relationships with a lot of our dealers. We're here to promote the product and run trainings and set up events and that kind of thing, and really kind of provide that last mile. um, which is why it sounds like it's so hard to do. If you've got different territories and different lines in each territory, you're not getting a whole lot of consolidation there. right? Like there's not a whole lot of savings, to bring it back all the way to the beginning of the conversation and why it's going to be so interesting to see how this all works out with Phoenix and them being national. Okay, so maybe you get one brand and you're their national rep. That's awesome. But the other little fill-in brands, like you're not going to get, ubiquity across the entire country and ubiquity in, not the network gear, but, you're not going to get uniformity.
Unless you're taking down existing relationships and
Right.
existing.
So again, this is what the interesting thing is going to be as it kind of unfolds. And if you're sort of an arm's length watcher like me, that is definitely going to be interesting. When they move into this territory or another territory or whatever, hey, it's great. We're all professionals here. Everybody gets along. That's wonderful.
Right.
Um,
The love and the hate, and the love, and the love and the hate. That's what that's all about, man.
it's gonna be fun to see for sure. And
Absolutely.
and obviously we wish those guys the best. We hope their adventure is fulfilling. And
Absolutely. And we love everybody on this podcast. So Phillips Pronto.
you love everybody.
Well,
I
that's fair.
tolerate everybody.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I
But
am the social one.
yeah, and it's right. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, and it's probably something that's going to be the topic of more than a few more, because we've spoken about the consolidation here in a lot of different episodes and in a lot of different ways, right? Manufacturers, and there seems to be, there's almost like there's two directions here, right? Like there's the, everybody comes together for, efficiency or whatever it is, and then you separate back out for specialization, right? So here's your, I'm specialized in this. You might be lighting design, or it might be this or that or the other thing. And it's funny how these things kind of ebb and flow, right? Like there used to be a lot of home theater specialists that were two-piece projection wizards, and maybe they didn't get too much into the rest of the house, or right, exactly, which is why I brought it up. But you've got guys who are great at shades and lights, and that specialization, like that's an angle you can push as well. But it seems to have kind of gone out of favor, right? Like now we're flogging every dealer to do anything that's going to make you money, such as shades and lighting. and theaters and multi-room audio and
Right.
consulting work and anything else. um, that's the way the tide seems to be flowing right now, is pull as much stuff in there as you possibly can, and be that guy. And it's just interesting to see it go kind of back and forth like the tides over 30 years I've been doing this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the distributors were the sales force, and then all of a sudden, well, we're going to break that out because they're different models. And then here we are now. It looks like, you could be a national distributor or national rep firm that has a distribution arm. And I can't imagine that
Sure.
is just gonna disappear. Maybe I shouldn't have just said that, but I did
Certainly not.
anyway.
I'll beep it out,
Bleep
don't worry.
bleep that
Yeah.
out.
No sweat. It's all
All
good.
right. Oh well.
I'll put in some other speaker name. Give me
Yeah.
give me the name of a defunct speaker company that went out like 20 years ago,
Oh
and we'll see if
man.
people are paying attention
B
this
and
late.
K.
Yeah, there you go. Right. B and K, right.
B and K outlawed you. Sorry. Jeez.
Wharfdale.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There we
I'm
go.
just gonna throw them all out there. But
That's right.
it's it's interesting to see in this industry and how this all works. And would love to know your thoughts on it, if you're still listening to this thing 24 minutes into it, and you have an opinion. If you're an integrator and you hate the fact that you, you
Right.
know
You're mad that there's national consolidation, or maybe you're excited about it because it's going to make your life easy. You've got one place to go to that has every single brand that you would ever want, and probably a few that you didn't know about under one roof.
sure.
Again, there's two sides to every coin, right? So I always try to look on the bright side. My friend, the Sith Lord over here on the other side of the podcast, always living on the dark side, and I respect it,
I just like choice,
for it.
baby. Just choice. Just give
I,
me,
I,
don't
I'm
don't
with
make me
you.
have to buy your dumb router and your dumb TV to get my VIG. Let me spec out what I want. That's all I want.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's fair criticism. That's why there is direct relationships. That's
That's it.
why there's different vendors and different programs that work for different people. That's what it's all about, right?
100%. Interoperability. Give me it all. Let's make everything work with everybody else, and we could all sit around and sing kumbaya.
Wow. See, now you sound like me. That's weird. The ebbs and flows of this podcast. It's a crazy one. I'm giving you work to do. You got to bleep out names. We're talking in metaphors. We're talking about all kinds of wild stuff. I like this one. It's a good one.
Yeah, this was yeah, and if you couldn't tell, this was completely off the cuff. This was 2 minutes before. This was
Sure.
like, hey, let's see what's in
What can
LinkedIn
we
today.
shoehorn into this hour-ish window that we have today between everything else we got to do,
Right. Right.
and talk shop for the week? But I think to wrap this all up, I think we need to congratulate the powers that be for taking a shot at making some change up there. So to Phoenix Marketing and the guys over there, kudos to you. Congratulations. I think it's
Yeah. Yeah.
exciting to hear where this next move goes, and maybe this is a call to arms. Maybe there's a race to create some national rep firms that represent a couple of lines wholeheartedly, and they become more integrated into the
Right.
corporate structure of those vendors. That's a huge opportunity. Like that's amazing, frankly. And again, something that feels like it's Back to the Future, but it's surprising to me that it's taken this long. I think there's been some other integrators that have tried this, but I can't think of a time at any point where there was an effort to create a national independent rep team. So very cool.
Yep, right on. We'll be rooting for your success. And with that, we appreciate you joining us for the last half hour or so. And again, reach out to us. Let us know. Tell us we're way off base. Tell us we're two idiots who don't know anything. I mean, that's
Please do.
basically what we're told every day anyway. So
Hit us up on Instagram at inside_integration. Hit us on the gram. Got a few pictures up there. Try to capture some of the content from our podcast and regurgitate it and highlight it on there. So if you don't know, you don't want to make a comment on the YouTube channel, you don't want to reach out to us personally or send us threatening notes on our cars or anything like that, hit us up on the gram, and we'll be happy to respond to your comments, criticisms, witticisms, whatever you got.
all right. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.